Assalamu alaikum, a very good evening and welcome to another episode of iON Business. Today we would like to discuss about the 10 p.m. curfew and the licensed restaurants that are closed for Scotland, Glasgow and the central area, and what effect it will have in terms of England in the coming announcement that the government will be making tomorrow, and what difficulties the business in whole will face, especially our Bangladeshi community businesses. Today I have two guests here. I have Mr. Mitu Chowdhury from the BCA, Secretary General, and then I have Tufajjal Mia, Secretary General, BBCA. Very good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to the program.
Good evening to you.
Very good evening.
Thank you for inviting.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, as you know, and obviously the hard times we are going through is in this pandemic, okay? Everything is changing on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, okay? The 10 p.m. curfew that we have going on within our business industry, you both are a well-known face in our community. You work within these industries of these small businesses that we Bangladeshis and small businessmen run within the community. Especially the restaurant sector, the takeaway sector, obviously the 10 p.m. closures, okay? The 10 p.m. closures, how would they affect in terms of our businesses? Has it really what the government is saying is it will stop the virus multiplying. Do you think that has really been, if I go to Mitubai, what do you think that is something that...
Thank you so much. Look, I've been running my restaurant for 28 years and I've never seen anything like this. Do you want more death? Do you want to go more hospital admission? Do you want to see more people in the IC? No, we don't want. So in that case, we are very lucky. We are still running our business until 10 o'clock. Scotland is the fastest infection rate than any other parts of the UK. In Scotland, since Friday, they shut down completely. You cannot go and visit somebody's house only because spreading so quickly. To stop this, they have to take this action. And I think for our safeguard, for our lives, for our families, for our business, I think it's ideal to stop it to spread the virus.
So are you in favor of the whole complete closure, or are you in favor of the 10 o'clock? Do you think that has...
As I understand, government going to take 3 steps. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. What they're going to do, Southeast, if you compare with the Northeast and Northwest and Scotland, Southeast is much, much better. What they're going to do, Southeast, they're going to keep it as it is. You can carry on as long as you maintain 6 people in one table. You can carry on, you can sell alcohol, you can run your business as long as you cover your face mask, as long as you wear it. If you go to Northeast, Liverpool, Midland, Manchester, Newcastle, what they're going to do, they're going to say, okay, open the restaurant until 6 o'clock, but you cannot visit to somebody's house. You cannot get together because it spreads so quickly. If you go outside on the air, that's fine because you don't breathe and people don't inhale. So that's what they're going to do. In Manchester plus North, Liverpool is very bad at the moment because 44% in 1,000. So what they're going to do, they're going to stop it completely from tomorrow. That's what I understand.
Let's get to Tufajjal Bhai. Tufajjal Bhai, this 10 o'clock, we've spoken on one of our programs that having everybody out at 10 o'clock, it doesn't really improve the situation, but in terms of a lot of people, it actually getting everybody out together on the street at the same time, using the public transport, going on forward. But I mean, in terms of the 10 o'clock, has it really helped the spread, containing the spread? Has it really affected the business? So small businesses, the restaurant. And another thing is the pubs, they can carry on selling if they have a beer garden. So you are able to take a pint of beer and go to the beer garden and speak to 6 other people.
Yeah. Well, it's a very, very important subject you touched on and you picked up today. I think first thing is we have to make it clear. One thing we have to understand, I'm so sorry I have to disagree with my learned panelist here. You cannot mix chalk and cheese. You know, our restaurant is in a controlled environment. From the minute they walk in, we have a guideline including one party in, one party out, or one way in, one way out, hand sanitization, compulsory temperature check, NHS track and trace, compulsory mask to the table. So only time they take the mask out is when they're on the table and when they're having their food and drink. So we are in a controlled environment. Now, for me, government to impose closure on 10 o'clock for the control environment, that is not, I'm not agreeing with that, like my learned panelist here. Because you are asking me to close at 10 o'clock, and who is paying for the damage? Because some member of ours, BBCA's members, are losing out big time. For example, maybe, you know, in suburb or but when you go centrally, for example, Birmingham, Manchester City, Newcastle, Liverpool, there, to be honest with you, some places the first table arrives at 9 o'clock because that's the lifestyle they're used to it. But my point is, they are losing out big time. So who is supporting their losses? That's my problem with the government, because I think the government got it completely wrong. They should close down the places which are uncontrolled, i.e. the pubs, the clubs, where they stand and eat, stand and have a pint of beers or drink, and where they fail to maintain the social distancing. So for me, it's a wrong decision, and I think government, look, I'm going to say this, nobody likes losing life. I have to agree with my panelist here. Nobody wants to see us getting into more trouble, but you cannot mix chalk and cheese. We, as a restaurateur, following the guidelines I've said earlier, and we are in the control environment. Hence, I believe strongly the government got this wrong. We should have been let open as we are operating, and the pubs and the clubs, I believe they should be shut down. And like you said, it's doing more damage by closing at 10 o'clock. For example, some people were due to travel 11 o'clock. Some people were due to travel 12 o'clock. Now, what is happening, everybody's traveling, closing down 10 o'clock, traveling at the same time. Particularly in central London, the public transport, it becomes chaotic.
Overwhelmed at the same sort of
10 o'clock becomes another rush hour. So they're not maintaining social distancing, and I believe they're doing more damage. In addition to that, a weekend, we know youngsters, they come, they leave 10 o'clock, they go on house party. Where's the social distancing? That's why I believe, I hope I'm not wrong, the testing is going up the roof. However, the one positive thing is the mortality rate is really good and low. But then again, one life, we cannot accept losing.
One life is one too many.
Absolutely.
Mitiwai, government said viable business or a viable job where there is the scheme for the help of the scheme for the job salaries. Yeah. But calling a lockdown on certain sectors of businesses, that job won't be viable. That job doesn't exist. So for them to work 10 hours instead of their 30 hours a week or whatever that they're employed to do, how do you think that is going to work out? How the employees will...
I'm going back a little bit. Since June, infection rate is higher than any other time. As you know, we are 4 weeks behind France, 6 weeks behind Spain. In France, Paris is locked down. Spain, Madrid is completely locked down. Brussels, every single coffee shop, beer hall, everything is shut down just to control the virus. Government pumping 62 billion pounds to get out the recession out of it, because people need to work. People need money to look after their families. Now, The people, the owner of the business, if he cannot run the business, if he shuts down, what they're going to do, government, the people who was working or who is working for him, they're going to pay 2/3 of his salary just to look after you, just to pay your gas, electric, water and your food bill. Government cannot pay everything. They cannot pump money to every single people. They have to get the money out of you and me and everybody. Where is the money coming from? 1.2 trillion pound government debt at the moment. They keep borrowing. They are not printing the money. They are borrowing money from World Bank, maybe no other organization. That money has to be paid. Who is paying? You and me and him. Now, if the business, if they don't support the business, if they don't control the virus, people cannot go anywhere. As you, my honorable friend said, look, 10 o'clock, if you shut down 10 o'clock, you put more pressure on, all the youngsters. Yeah. What a youngster does, they go to pub. They go to 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, then a few minutes later, they go to different club, different pub. They mix. They don't know what they're doing because they had to drink. They lose their common sense. So they keep touching and hugging. Because of that, the virus rate is a scientific evidence. Virus rate goes sky high. That's what government's saying. Try to bring them indoor. Drink indoor, but don't drink outdoor. Don't mix with the other people. That's why.
But do you think the restaurant should have been outclassed? The restaurant should not be included within the pub and the clubs where more drinking is gathered, more gathering. Where restaurant, you go and you sit down and you eat. You have a bottle of wine or a glass of wine or a glass of beer.
Absolutely brilliant. I'm 100% agree with you, because the restaurant people go and eat. They enjoy. They don't mix with other people. They sit at the table. They don't walk around. If they open until 11, would have been ideal, would have been fantastic. Takeaway until 11, no problem, because he's coming and collecting and going home.
There's not much number of people there.
It would have been ideal, because there is no scientific evidence. If people stay from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock at the table, it doesn't pass anybody, because he's not mixing with other people. It would have been ideal. I agree in that point. Yes.
I mean, thank you, Mitubai. Finally, you're agreeing that they got it wrong. Because the restaurant is a controlled environment. Making us in the same level as the clubs, bars, was completely wrong. This is my voice. Our President Shalim Chowdhury straight away wrote to the government saying that you got this wrong. You are mixing chalk and cheese. You are mixing people where they're having these following the guideline and in a controlled environment, and you're asking them to close, particularly at the weekend. We know the catering business are very busy, generally Friday and Saturday. We all know
most of the income is generated on the weekend.
Exactly. Those busy places, or generally even not very busy places, they have two setting policies at weekend. So imposing us to close at 10 o'clock and losing the revenue, I think that was the wrong thing to do. I cannot agree. Now I'm glad Mitubai is accepting the fact that it's
I didn't
11.
agree with you. What I'm saying, compared with the question, if they extend from 10 to 11 would have been ideal, because where I live, southeast of London, over there, you don't see too many people after 11 or 12 o'clock walking around drinking in a pub. But if you go to north, that's where is the problem, because people go to nightclub or pub or anywhere, they stay until 2 o'clock in the morning. That is the problem.
Their lifestyle of operating is later than
that's the problem. Yes. Because of that, and the virus rate, if you see up north, is really worse. Any other area, north is the really worse area. They hit it very badly. Even Andy Barham, the mayor of Manchester, he said the restriction has been lifted too early.
I cannot, I'm not going to defend that at all. But my point is, imposing us to close, who is liable for the damage? Who is liable for the losses? The government should do. Like, for example, Amir Bhai, the Scotland has closed from since 10th. Now, the government has already announced £40 million package to help those businesses who are going to be affected. Now, for me, Mitubai, it's not about me. It's about wider community. And we as BBCA represent everyone from Dockland to Scotland. So we have to take care, and we believe we are the voice of our industry. If we don't raise these voice and concern, that would be wrong representation. So I'm saying again, the government got this wrong. We are a controlled environment, and they shouldn't have mixed us and put us in the playing field as the bars and the clubs.
They should have let the restaurant industry allow it to carry on, maybe in a smaller capacity. Maybe they should have said, okay, you have 100 seater capacity. Yeah. Maybe you can have 50 people per hour or 20, 30 people per hour and stagger it on and let it carry on.
It's a good point. Again, I'm going to say that. Government, look, there is no doubt the government has helped us on 1 year rate free, 10K or 25K grants. The bounce back loan, job retention scheme, the VAT reduction of 5% now extended until 31st of March. There is no doubt the government has helped us. Firstly, with the social distancing, and I'm going minimum, brother, here. Minimum, every restaurant has lost 1/3 of the sitting. That was, first we were battered there. Secondly, if we have been imposed to close early, that's the final nail in the coffin. I don't mind if they feel, and I have to disagree with my learned colleague here, that there is no scientific result that closing 10 o'clock will reduce the COVID infection. Spread, I beg your pardon. They've just literally, the government literally followed the Belgium, Sweden and Belgium did. Now they did it on summertime, where you know the dark gets days are longer. So people hang about outside this and that.
And we're doing it in winter,
in an uncontrolled environment. But we are approaching winter. I think, like I said before, by letting everyone close at 10 o'clock, and when you see the high road, and of course they're a bit tipsy, you know, everybody have a, especially weekend, they have a drink, whether it's 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock, they do, because that's what the socializing about. So when they leave at the same time, particularly in urban area, like central London and outer London, people uses transport or underground tube. They forget, because everyone is leaving at the same time and is causing a rush hour. So everybody, most people forget about social distancing, and in my view, it's causing more damage than good.
Sorry, I'm not agree with him. Look, we lost 42,375 people yesterday. 43,000 lives. 544,000 people infected so far, right? Every single infection rate, if we carry on like this, and if the government doesn't take any action, 50,000 people will be affected every day. If you multiply a month, can you imagine how many thousand people will be affected? We would not go to hospital, we would not go to GP, we would not go anywhere. We could not, because it would be out of order. Health service would be completely out of order. Who's going to control? Who's going to see? You need to look up. You need someone to look after you. You need to control the virus.
We need to control the virus spreading.
And
but
another
again,
thing is,
we need
it's not only London. You need to think about the whole nation, the whole country. Look, in London, we're talking about the underground TV station, the bars, everything, too many people. It's still, infection rate is not as bad as not.
Well, then in my view,
you need to control the virus. You need to the measure, right measure.
Should it have been more stronger in up north, where in Glasgow and Edinburgh and so on? Should it have been more stronger?
Yeah, that's what the government doing it, area basis. Depend.
Saying that, where I go back to Fajl by saying, yes, if it is stronger, who is going to pay for the repercussion of these losses of small businesses?
Look,
but Andy Burnham said that the people, the employees, the workforce should actually get 80% of the furlough that they did get. He has meeting with a lot of the leaders up in North, and he said that if the government is not paying 80%, that they should either pay 100% or 80%. If not, he's taking that to legal proceeding.
Yes.
So even if it's a stronger sort of lockdown, he's requesting the government, he's threatening the government to take legal action to make sure what
They get the
Fajal Bhai is saying is to make sure that the business is surviving, the employees are paid, and they're getting their food on the table.
Look, since 24th of March, when the national lockdown started, government paid every single business, if you want to, £50,000 bounce back loan. And government gave the bank guarantee, if he doesn't pay, who you will pay? You have to give the loan if somebody apply for it. They gave 25,000 local council grant. They freeze business rate completely. On top, you got all the other facilities. As well as if you don't work, if you sit down and watch television, still you get 80% of your wages. You're getting full wages, 20% is your tax. So you're paying the 20% tax, you're getting 80% as you used to get. They cannot look after you every day, every week, every month, every year. Where's the money coming from? On top, PCA worked so hard with other organizations to reduce the VAT from 20% to 5%.
Yes,
we take credit because government looked after the small businesses, hospitality sector, and it helped us so much. And I can say since Second World War, British government did not help as much as present government did, the business people, the people of the country. So I think we are grateful to the government, the support, the help, and the advice we are getting at the moment. So I think they're doing absolutely brilliant. As you said, if you lose the job, government gonna pay 2/3 of your wages. Today, tomorrow, when everything goes back to normal, they have to pay that money back. If you are 40% bracket, you have to pay double tax. So end of the day, you will suffer, he will suffer, somebody will suffer.
But the question is, if the business don't survive, you know, how do you keep it afloat? If your members from both of your institution, if they don't survive, how are they going to be able to pay for it? So how do they, if they are in a lockdown and if they're told by the government, if they're told by the local council, you need to shut down from tomorrow. So for the next 4 weeks, you're shutting down. If they have a rent to pay, yes, the rate is frozen. But if they're on a leasehold property and they have a rent, the landlord are not going to freeze their rent or say.
Absolutely, that's where the difficulty is. That's where imposing at 10 o'clock is causing many of our members losses, and hence we need to speak out. Yes, look, some places are okay. They're not affected. I'm not going to deny that. But you've got to look at it from Scotland to Dockland to Scotland. You've got to look at it as a wider issue. Yes, we know the spread of this disease comes from droplets and contacts, whereas our restaurants are in controlled environment. We have been given a specific guideline. We are not pubs and nightclubs or clubs. We work on a guideline. We've got a fine if you don't follow up to £10,000. Now what they've done, they made their life easy. The local council should have visited those places, and I'm going to be harsh here, those places who do not follow the guideline and pick up the bad crops and fine them. I don't disagree with that. But the problem is imposing closing, the man who's following, the business people who's following the guideline, he's been penalized for no reason. And it's causing more damage than good. If you look at the statistic, there is no scientific reason why they have closed down 10 o'clock.
We're shortly going to go on a break, but before we go on a break, we have a couple of callers. Let's take a call. Very good evening, caller.
Hello.
Hello, assalamu alaikum. Go ahead, you're speaking live. Thank you.
Sorry, yes, I just want to make one point. It's interesting to see both panel members there, Safa Dubai and Dubai. Just one point I want to make one point. The VAT reduction was purely for COVID-19. There was no other exception. I know many of us have campaigned and alongside, but the issue of VAT was purely for COVID. There's no other reason.
Thank you very much for your call, caller. Thank you. Gentlemen, before we carry on our discussion, let's go on we're going on a commercial break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Viewers, we're just going to go for a couple of minutes of a commercial break. Stay with us until then. See you in a minute.
আলাইকুম ওয়া রাহমাতুল্লাহি ওয়া বারাকাতুহু। নাজাত ইসলামী মার্কাজ এখানে বাচ্চারা হাফিজি পড়তেছে, বিশেষ করে এই মাদ্রাসায় অন্ধ বাচ্চারা লেখাপড়া করে। আলহামদুলিল্লাহ, আপনাদের দান, আপনাদের আন্তরিকতায় এই মাদ্রাসায় ছেলেরা লেখাপড়া করে। যত ভাই বোনরা নাজাত ইসলামী মার্কাজে দান করেন, সকলকে আমি অনুরোধ করব আপনাদের লিল্লার গরু এবং খাসি এবং যে কোনো সময় যদি আপনারা চাউল দান করেন, তাহলে এই মাদ্রাসার ছেলেরা আপনাদের এই দানে উপকৃত হবে। এখানে যারা আছে সবাই অন্ধ, কেউ চোখে দেখে না। আজকে যারা লাঞ্চ খাইতেছে, মাশাআল্লাহ, কিছু দেখো না, সে দেখে কিছু দেখো, সে কিছুই দেখে না। দেখুন, তারা লাঞ্চ করতেছে আজকে। আমি সকল ভাই বোনদেরকে বলবো, আপনাদের লিল্লাহ সাদাকা খয়রাত নাজাত ইসলামী মার্কাজে আপনারা দান করুন, আল্লাহ আপনাদেরকে জাযা দান করবেন।
Warning, remember, never use a mobile handset when driving. It's dangerous and you could be fined. If you're involved in an accident, call Automech on 0208 983 2088.
Assalamualaikum and very good evening. Welcome back to the program. Today we are discussing the 10 p.m. curfew in the restaurant, the hospitality industry, and the closures of the licensed restaurant in Scotland. My guest today is Mr. Mithu Chowdhury, Secretary General BCA, and I have Tufajjal Mia, Secretary General BBCA. Gentlemen, as we were discussing earlier on, we both of you and discuss on the topics of some agreeing, some disagree. Quick question on the thing of furlough and the new job retention scheme. Which do you think? I mean, it's a confusing one. Do you think the government should have just stayed to the furlough that they were on rather than going to the job retention scheme that they have? And which one thing is, if I interrupt, sure. Before we go to you, both of you gentlemen, there's a few more callers. Let's take this call and we'll come back to you. Very good evening, caller.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Very good evening. Welcome to the program. Please come up with your question. Thank you.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shah Lalun Amin, and this is a message for Tafajjul Bhai.
Go ahead. We're all listening. Thank you.
Okay. My question is, I see a lot of disparity between the BBCA and the BCA in your message in regards to the 10 p.m. curfew. As a business owner, I've got 2 restaurants, and I'm suffering a lot because of this curfew. And I'm actually shocked to see Mithu Bhai say that the 10 o'clock curfew is good for business. How can this be good when it's actually killing our business? That's my question.
Okay. Can I answer the question?
Thank you very much for your fantastic question. We'll get our panel to say a little bit more on the question that you have raised.
I'm not saying it's better. What I'm saying is better than national lockdown. At least we are operating. At least we are running the business. At least we are paying the gas, electric, water. At least we are taking the business running as normal. So, normally, maximum restaurant, they shut at 11 o'clock, not 10 o'clock. 11 o'clock would have been ideal, without any doubt. I've got 5 restaurants. We run 5 restaurants at a time within 5 miles radius. We suffer. But what I'm saying, it's better than national lockdown.
What you're saying is you're agreeing to what the 10 p.m. is better than
national lockdown. That's what I'm
where
saying.
You'll have to fully stop operation.
Yes.
This brother Shah Lalun, I believe, raised a very important question. This is what I was talking about. There are people outside. We have to look at the people, wider community, wider business people. Like I said before, from Dockland to Scotland, there are more damage done by closing at 10 p.m. Again, I'm going to go. This person, I'm sure, is running a viable business with COVID-19 secure experience, giving experience to his customer. He's the one who's most probably following all the guidelines, and he made his restaurant. He's made his restaurant, Amir Bhai, a COVID secure environment. Now, he's been forced to close 10 o'clock. He's lost a sitting, most probably on Saturday, which most probably be 60, 70 covers. Who is liable to pay for that imposement? This is the fight we have to fight. I'm not saying government. Look, government has helped us. I'm not denying. And no life is worth anything. I agree to all that. But somebody has to be responsible, and the government must look into it very seriously.
Let's take another caller. We've got another caller online. Very good evening, caller.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, caller. Good evening.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sayyidul Islam. I'm calling from Southwest London.
Go ahead, brother. We can hear you speak.
But Assalamu alaikum. My question is to Mitubai regarding about the 10 o'clock curfew. Mitubai, I just want to ask you to tell you something, that we are following every single guideline the government has put on us, on the restaurant. When customer walks in, we ask them to put mask on, sanitize their hands, scan the QR system, we check the temperature.
Yes.
Right, we are following every single guideline. Even when we serve the customer, we have to wear masks, gloves, take every single action that we could, that which is needed. Now, I went to Mitubai's website and I saw that he's got 12,000 restaurants that he controls. Does that mean he's controlling my restaurant as well?
No, it's not
if he's controlling that every single thing that the government has put on us, we are doing it. But what is it doing it for us? The customers are getting pressured, we are getting pressured, and it's really frustrating us because by 9:45 we have to put the bill on the table.
Correct.
And we are losing business. So this 10 o'clock curfew is not helping us at all. It's not helping us at all because we are losing customers day by day, and it's really frustrating us. So what is it doing about it?
Thank you very much for your fantastic call.
I mean, the restaurants are being controlled fully, but it's the pubs and the clubs are not being controlled. But the restaurants are being fully controlled by the government guidelines. We are doing everything that we are supposed to do.
Thank you for your call, caller. Fantastic question from Mitubai.
So do we. We are losing customers as well. We are losing business as well. That's why what the British MPs in the Parliament on Wednesday, they are going to have a vote on 10 p.m. curfew. What lots of 60 Conservative MPs saying 10 o'clock is too short. We need to extend from 10 to 11 o'clock, including Keir Starmer, opposition leader. And what they're saying, they're going to have a vote in the Parliament on Wednesday. Whether government agreed or not, if they lose that vote, then they will extend from 10 to 11. I don't support 10 o'clock. What
do you think the government is going to do another U-turn on another thing?
I think what they're going to do, they have to look after the business. They have to look after the small businessmen. As he said, we do everything is possible to make sure our premises is safe, make sure customers are happy to dine in our restaurant, make sure they keep coming back to support us, to keep going our restaurant, to keep going our economy. So in that case, we have to respect government's rules and regulations.
Of course, everybody
because
must obey the law.
They don't decide, they don't talk to us, they talk to the scientific advisor, they advise them, they put the law. We have to follow what they're saying. 10 o'clock, lots of conservative MPs saying now 10 o'clock is too short. It's not enough for the people to go out and have a dinner and get out of the restaurant by 10. So pub and the club must shut 10 o'clock. Make sure the virus doesn't spread, doesn't go from one people to the other people, because they go from one pub to other. You don't know who is carrying, who is passing to who. So what they're saying, they have to listen to government. That's Conservative MP saying. And it's vote on Wednesday. We might get extension from Wednesday night from 10 to 11. We might get 90% sure they will do it. And we are lobbying, using our influence to the MPs. My junior health minister is my constituency MP. I go and sit down with him, with her and with him. I've got 3 MPs within 5 miles radius, and I say, look, this is what we do. This is our livelihood. We look after small business people, 100,000 workers, 150,000 family involved. As an Indian restaurant, because we represent Indian restaurant. 12,000 we don't control, we represent.
You represent those 12,000.
We have them. But this is what we want.
I have to disagree with you here, Mitubai. I'm so sorry. With all due respect to you, you don't represent 12,000.
Now, what we say.
Within that 12,000, I have a restaurant myself.
Now, of course.
Let me finish, please.
It's an umbrella,
umbrella
organization.
I did not interrupt you. So, I have, say, 500 members within that 12,000 restaurant. They're not your members. You might have the 11.5, but you don't represent 12,000. Please accept that. And
I get the benefit. That's what I'm saying. You get the benefit. That's what I'm saying.
No,
people get the benefit.
I think you are misleading people.
No. What I'm saying.
By saying, allow me to finish.
Sure,
then you can answer.
Sure.
No problem at all. I would not interrupt you.
Tuwajjalai, can I pause you for 1 second? We have a few more callers. Let's take this call. Very good evening, caller. Assalamu alaikum, very good evening, caller. You're live on air.
Walaikum salam.
Go ahead,
I
caller.
want to ask a question, man. Why people in jewelry store for wedding, so many people, but we're no wedding allowed? Why people? People eating in shopping.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Come on.
50 people.
Why the government doing this to us, man?
It's a good point, actually. You know?
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your call. We will discuss
I'll be
that
honest
with the
and
panel to
serious
speak
here.
about it.
I don't know what to do, man.
Well, it's talking about
let me
the
just
gathering
finish.
of
Sorry,
wedding.
Let's
finish off from before. Yes.
Now, why I say you are misleading is, you're claiming 12,000 in your website. I think one of the name was Badrul Islam, said you are representing 12,000 restaurateurs. You're not representing mine. Who gave you the mandate to represent me? So I think it's misleading, number one. Number two, this brother asked, actually, maybe he asked in a funny way, with all due respect to him, but it's a very important question he raised. In weddings, we are not allowed, but when you go to supermarkets, and when you see the things there, I am shocked. And the governments are not doing anything, and they're imposing closure on us, where we, the small businesses, are trying to follow every guide they're given to us in a controlled environment and imposing us to close, but not being responsible for the losses. That's where I cannot agree. And from the first day when they imposed, we disagreed with the government. And we've written to the government. Our President Salim Chaudhry has written to the government that this is not going to go down well. It's going to, a lot of business will get caught up in the middle because of closing early. Now, if the government didn't impose, then we don't claim the government for anything. But if they impose us to close and they get it wrong, they need to do a U-turn. That's our demand. Thank you.
So there isn't thing for the business to be getting it through 1,500, 2,500, 3,500 in terms of their rateable value if there is a local lockdown. Do you think that's enough for the business? Mitubai?
To be honest, at the moment, whatever help we get, it helps. We appreciate any help from the government. Sometimes...
Is it enough?
That's problem is, depend what kind of business you are running, what size of the business you are running. If you got a small restaurant, if you got a small taker, if you get limited money, somehow you can manage. But if you got, say, you said 70, 80 cover restaurant, you've got 20 staff. You've got gas, electric, water, telephone, rent, rate, wages. It's not enough. But government cannot look after everybody. We have to understand the situation we are in is once in 100 years. It's unprecedented. There is nothing we can do. We expect government to help us as much as possibly can, to look after our business, to look after our staff.
Look, I'm not in here.
Mintubai, when Mintubai is saying the government is helping us, the government has the responsibility of looking after its citizens.
Absolutely.
Where it's ordered its citizens or its businessmen and women to close up shop, where they will be paying a rent rate where the rate is frozen. But if they say, okay, we are giving you £1,000, £1,500 at the end of 2 weeks or a month, which doesn't cover anything.
I'm not going to deny the government has been helping the catering industry nice and fair and well. However, the government needs these small businesses. They're not doing it just for the love, because these small businesses bring millions and millions of revenue to the treasury coffin every month. For example, restaurateur particularly, I'll give you a good example. Whether you make a loss or profit end of the year, you have to keep paying the VAT. VAT 20% goes straight to the coffin of number 11 treasury. So they get a lot of revenue, you know. Now, I'll tell you what, I'll give you some stats. I'm not going to deny the government has spent, you know, on furlough they spent £30.4 billion. On test and trace, £10 billion. On PPE, they spent £15 billion. Public and businesses, £12 billion. These are big numbers. I'm not saying that the government hasn't. But the government, when they make a decision, this is where my problem is. They impose something on us, and they don't understand the trickle effect is going to happen. That's where I have the problem. And that's where my job is to raise and show our concern of our members, that they are losing out, and if they lose out, they won't be there in the business. If they're not going to be in the business, I'll tell you what, after October, the real figures will come on the furlough, the job losses. You will see what percentage of jobless people are in this country, and it will have a mammoth effect. It will have a trickle effect. People can be in trouble. Now, saving these small businesses are one thing to do. That's all what we are asking. Yes, they have helped us. Yes, we don't want to lose life, but at the same time, if you're imposing us to close at your order, and there is no scientific reason why they ask us to close, and they have mixed us on the same playing field as the pubs and the clubs, where we are in a controlled environment following the guideline, that's where I cannot agree with the government. Thank you.
I'd like to add something. Government takes decision based on scientific evidence. On Thursday, Boris Johnson announced the measure. Day before, Chris Waite, independent scientific advisor to government, whoever party government, they said we need to save our lives. That's important. You need to save your citizens.
But there is no scientific reason.
There is no
one scientific reason.
There is
no one scientific reason that the imposing 10 o'clock
has helped or not.
No.
So this is
since imposing 10 o'clock, the test is been going up and up. So,
we need the independent scientific advisor for the government has said we need a stronger lockdown.
He didn't say time. No, that's correct.
Yes, we need a stronger lockdown.
Yes.
The stronger lockdown should have been imposed soon as possible.
Yes, exactly.
Where the government announces we will do a closure or impose a lockdown on a Monday and Tuesday, where the weekend everybody goes out and have a large party, has a drink on the government, and.
But can you imagine? In Scotland, they stop from 6 to 6. 6 o'clock is shut down completely. If we have that problem, would have been a disaster. At least in that base, at least we are carrying on, running our business, looking after, and on Wednesday they might reverse their decision. Another thing is, look, we need a vaccine. In America, 20,000 people on 80 different sites in the area, they tested.
Yeah, but
still, we didn't get satisfactory result because it's too much side effect.
Yeah.
Right? Because of there is no vaccine, they have to do something. They have to control the disease, make sure it doesn't spread to everyone.
Absolutely. Which again, Tawaffaddal Bhai agrees to it. Agreed to it, but
who is saying that we will not head towards like the lockdown of Scotland? But here, Mitubai, you have to understand this.
I do.
No. Scotland has been given £40 million budget to help those lockdown, like when the national lockdown. And my point again is, if you're imposing to close someone, you have to cover the person's or the businessman's loss. And I'm going to fight for that. Whether Mitubai agrees or not, that is my job, because I represent my members from up and down the country, not me.
But Bindu Bhai, I mean, what Jalbai is hoira je atikase bondo horo lockdown horo, even if it is central London lockdown horo, but my members, the general public, the businessmen or women all, they need to be reimbursed.
I agree that.
What you're saying is, yes, government
limited, because there are resources. Look, England.
Can I just add one thing?
It's not a big country, it's a small island. 5 million people in Scotland, they can afford to pay everybody. But in England, in the UK, they cannot afford to pay everybody. We sit down and watch and they pay money. It doesn't work like this, because as you said, we are heading for bad recession. Our economy would be unprecedented. It will be really bad recession. We need to get back our economy going. We have to run our business. We have to keep going. That's true, without any doubt.
We're coming towards the end of the program, but my question is, okay, do you think the furlough and the job detention scheme that's coming in, do you think that is enough?
No.
Do you think that is enough?
I don't think going...
The 1,500, the 2,000 and the 3,000 per calculation of your rates, that if there is a lockdown in a certain area, this is what the government will pay you. Is that a month that they will pay?
Look,
is it enough?
No, I don't think so. Look, government is going to... And they're changing and chopping every day. I'm not here to defend the government or attack. But I'm here to pinpoint where they go wrong. It's not about attacking the government, or it's not about defending the government. No. The suggestion about the £2,000-3,000 on furlough, new furlough scheme, is not going to work, because some people's expense is huge. For example, in central London, a minimum, a shop's rent is £1,000 a week.
So getting £2,000 is...
What is it? It's not even a tip of the iceberg for them, you know. So how can they survive? Now, what will happen if they imposes again with this closure? In my view, these businesses will go down under very quick and fast, and it will have a disastrous effect on the economy on the long run. Because to get us on the feet is going to take long time. I'm not saying we are a hard-working nation. Britain has seen, maybe not as worse as this, but they have seen wars, they have seen a lot of disasters, and we picked ourselves, so they know the way. Now, I want to touch on one more thing. Only 2 countries, that includes Britain, is allowed to print money. Yes, some next generation or somebody has to pay for it. But what is important? Current situation to survive,
and
get over it, to pay, or just sleep over it and get dead and buried. I rest my case.
I think furlough scheme was absolutely brilliant, because whatever you do, wherever you work, whatever the wages you are getting exactly the same
new
money.
One is not.
I think that one they should carry on. Do you know why? So it doesn't affect you, doesn't affect me, doesn't affect anybody, and economy will boom. because economy has to keep going. That's the most important. We are the 6th largest economy in the world. But if you compare with Brazil, America, India, if you compare with that, Britain don't print money. Do you know why? Otherwise, it would be like a Zimbabwe. Inflation rate would be sky high. The bread we buy, milk we buy £1 10 pence, £1 20. That would be £5. So we are worse off. So we are better off as it is, as long as government help the people who doesn't have the job, who doesn't work, or who can't get the job, so people can carry on their normal life.
Help the business and
people.
And the workforce.
Exactly.
Sail out this
keep it
storm, steady.
And stabilize the economy.
They
That's
have
important.
to help these small businesses. I'm not only saying about the restaurant and caterers, other small businesses, because each shop employs on an average 8 to 10 people. That's 8 to 10 people's bread and butter, family. So we have to help these small businesses. The furlough, they have to rethink, not 2,000 and 1,000 businesses, it's not going to work, because it won't even cover some of their rent, let alone the overheads. So I think the government will rethink. I think the government should help the small businesses. I strongly believe, and we at BBCA will continue to lobby for the small businesses from Dockland to Scotland. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you on this show. Viewers,
thank you for inviting.
Thank you very much for watching tonight's program. Do join us next week, 10 o'clock live. But until then, do look after yourself and each other. Very good evening.